6 more. Who's counting, right? I started counting at 8. Oh, light. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the August 19th, 2025 meeting of the Logan Planning Commission.
Whoops, we're not.
The planning commission. Gee,
We did that for a long time.
Planning commission. Of the city council, sorry. No, we were just talking about planning commission. You have to worry about my head some days, I'm afraid. We are going to have Craig do our Pledge of Allegiance, but I wanted to take a moment to recognize those officers who gave their life in support of our communities, and to acknowledge with unbelievable gratitude the people who showed up last night and watched as they brought one of those police officers home. It was moving, it was incredible. I didn't know there were that many police cars in all the state of Utah, but it was an amazing experience, and I'd like to take just a moment of silence to recognize what they gave to our community. Craig, would you lead us in the pledge, please? All rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just by way of announcement, Mark and Mike are both attending the UAMP's annual conference, and they are joining us by phone. So you'll hear voices from above on occasion. It'll be good. We will now accept the minutes from our last meeting and approve the agenda for this evening.
I would move acceptance of the minutes and tonight's agenda.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We will do roll call voting this evening because of the people on the phone. Mike?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Ernesto?
Aye.
Jeannie? Aye. The regularly scheduled meetings of 2025 are the first and third Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. Our next meeting is scarily September 2nd, 2025. This time in the agenda is a time for the public to ask questions and make comments directed toward the mayor and or the council on items that are not otherwise on the agenda. We ask that you take 3 minutes or less. We do have a timer. And please be civil, that's all. State your name and where you live, and have at it.
I'm Gail Hansen. I live in Logan. I have 3 items. There was a car from Oneida County also last night.
There was
A car from Oneida County, so it wasn't just Utah.
oh, Okay, well, oh, I didn't know that.
Well, I got bored, so I paid attention to the,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
And there was, and I didn't even mention the officer who was shot and critically injured, and his canine that was also injured, which
Thank
was
you.
horrible in itself.
Yes, everything was horrible, but our community stood up, and that was good. I'm going to go to something concrete and then something really philosophical. The concrete thing is 3rd North and Main. It's very concrete, that northwest corner. Center Street looks great. Main Street needs a little work, and I understand that the city owns that, I think. Anyway,
Main Street is a state highway.
but the property alongside 3rd North and Main,
Where we staged the library.
Oh, okay.
that concrete place.
Oh.
I can send you some details on that and what we've been working on.
Okay, I'm glad there's thought going that way. Okay, now for the philosophical. The Georgia Pacific model of service. They sell you toilet paper, the toilet paper is the product, you are the customer. The healthcare model of service. They sell you the healthcare, you are the product, and their investors are the customer. I would like us to focus for a minute on what government of the people, by the people, and for the people means. It is important that we have housing. It is important that we have jobs. We need to be sure that we're serving the people and not the realtors and the landlords and the employers, that our focus is on the people. So just for a minute, think of the people, by the people, and for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Hi, Matthew Patuasi. I live here in Logan. So, I'm not sure how many of you guys are familiar with the law of the jungle. So, now this is the law of the jungle, as old and as true as the sky, and the wolf that shall keep it may prosper, but the wolf that shall break it must die. As the creeper that girdles the tree trunk, the law runneth forward and back, for the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. Watch daily from nose tip to tail tip, drink deeply but never too deep. And remember that the night is for hunting, and forget not the day is for sleep. The jackal may follow the tiger, but cub when thy whiskers are grown. Remember the wolf is a hunter, go forth and get food on thy own. Keep peace with the lords of the jungle, the tiger, the panther, and bear, and keep peace with the Lord, and trouble not Hathi the silent, and mock not the boar in his lair. When pack meets with pack in the jungle, and neither will go from the trail, lie down till the leaders have spoken. It may be fair words shall prevail. When you fight with the wolf of the pack, you must fight him alone and afar, lest others take part in the quarrel, and the pack be diminished by war. The lair of the wolf is his refuge, and where he has made him his home, not even the head wolf may enter, not even the council may come. The lair of the wolf is his refuge, but where he has digged it too plain, the council shall send him a message, and so he shall change it again. If you kill before midnight, be silent, and wake not the woods with your bay, lest you frighten the deer from the crop, and your brothers go empty away. You may kill for yourselves and your maids and your cubs as they need, and ye can, but kill not for pleasure of killing, and 7 times never kill man. If you plunder his kill from a weaker, devour not all in thy pride. Pack right is the right of the meanest, so leave him the head and the hide. The kill of the pack is the meat of the pack. He must eat where it lies, and no one may carry away the meat to his lair, or he dies. The kill of the wolf is the meat of the wolf. He may do what he will, but until he has given permission, the pack may not eat of that kill. Cup right is the right of the yearling. From all of his pack he may claim, full gorge when the killer has eaten, and none may refuse him the same. Lair right is the right of the mother. From all of her year she may claim, one haunch of each kill for her litter, and none may deny her the same. Cave right is the right of the father, to hunt by himself for his own. He is freed of all calls to the pack. He is judged by the council alone. Because of his age and his cunning, because of his gripe and his paw, and all that the law leaveth open, the word of your head wolf is law. Now these are the laws of the jungle, and many and mighty are they, but the head and the hoof of the law, and the haunch and the hump is obey. Did any of that sound like survival of the fittest in any way whatsoever, which is traditionally the motto that everybody inside of the business sector decides to run their businesses, and you can't deny that that's an element that's steeped inside of it. So unless you go in there with countermeasures, you're going to be opening up yourselves to malicious actors. I think that that's survival of the fittest, what the law of the jungle is, written by Upton Sinclair back in the day. I think that's who it was anyways. But yeah, no, don't run the city council or the city like a business, because who is the council when it comes to the law of the jungle? It is the free market. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matthew.
This microphone good? I'm Bruce Bugby. I live on Canyon Road in Logan, not Canyon Road, Crockett Avenue, near Canyon Road. And I want to contribute to the long-standing discussion that the neighbors have had about the restoration of Canyon Road, because we know we got the water line coming down Canyon Road. In the neighborhood, we've had discussions for at least 9 months about a sidewalk on the north side. And it feels like old news now, because it's been discussed many times. But I'm here to speak to the perception that a sidewalk is required by code, required to put a sidewalk in. We all know that's well landscaped in the area, there's steep roads, but is it required by code? And the code is pretty simple. It says if you do a sidewalk project and you do curb, you should put in a sidewalk. But there are numerous exceptions to that. And as I sat here a minute ago, that our wonderful picture of Center Street, which we're so proud of, that got done with this administration, that's an exception to code. That wouldn't meet the code in strict requirements. The steep duckway had a major overhaul a few years ago. We put a sidewalk on one side, not two sides. Would have been very difficult. It wasn't required. The street we live on, Diana and I, Crockett Avenue, we did major work in that about 20 years ago. That has a sidewalk on one side, and we didn't put a second sidewalk in there. It stayed as one side sidewalk. All of Canyon Road, all the way to 12th East, has a fine sidewalk on the south side. Now, granted, it could use some smoothing restoration, but those of us that live there use that sidewalk, and very few people live on the north side, so there's not a big demand for a sidewalk. So you have to revisit how critical is this sidewalk, how much is it required by code, and when there's so many exceptions to our code, so it's hard to make a justification that it's unequivocally required. And in fact, some legal counsels, some years ago, 30 years ago, it wasn't even my legal counsel, I was in a meeting with zoning, and somebody else's attorney made a big case, and he was pointing out all the exceptions in the city to the code of requiring double sidewalks for a street. Please, don't make us go to legal counsel to have this discussion about a code requirement for a double sidewalk. The discussion is it useful? Do the neighbors want it? There's all kinds of discussion, but please don't make us have a legal fight for code.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
I guess it's working. I'm Leila Schultz. I live on Canyon Road. I've been a voter in Logan for 52 years. And you know my position about the sidewalk, I think. There's been a discussion about getting more neighborhood input from Wilson Neighborhood, Matt Vance, and having a survey. I think the JUB engineers have talked about constructing a survey to find out what the neighbors feel. I just want to say, the message is very clear. I brought, and I'll just read part of it, the petition that was circulated and signed last fall by a total of more than 4,700 people, most of whom live in Logan. We know we can track it through IP addresses. We know where the signatures have come from. I know, because I signed it while I was visiting my daughter in Idaho, and I'm listed as from Idaho. So, the petition reads, "We, the undersigned, urge the Logan City Council to reconsider the proposed water line and sidewalk project on Canyon Road, which threatens the island neighborhood's historic ash trees, some of which are at least 100 years old. We've given up on changing where the water line goes, and alternatives were thrown out of the picture because of the cost. The proposed," I'm quoting now from the petition, "the proposed sidewalk is unnecessary as there is already a functional and underutilized sidewalk on the other side of the road," that's the south side, "which serves hundreds more homes than the new option would. The financial, environmental, and residential costs and impacts of completing this project on Canyon Road far outweigh any limited benefits. We see no need for us, I'm off quoting, no need for a sidewalk that just serves a few residents on the north side. And from experts, we've discovered that you can keep the trees, put in the water line, as long as you don't put in this very expensive sidewalk that cuts into steep hillsides and would cost a lot of money to have retaining walls. It's a huge cost to the taxpayer. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Leila.
I'm Hillary Shugart. I live in the Wilson neighborhood in the southwest quadrant of Logan. And I want to thank the mayor and council for this opportunity to make a public comment. I would like to thank Mayor Daines for having rejuvenated the neighborhood councils when she took office in 2018. I have been serving on the Wilson Neighborhood Council Steering Committee since I was appointed at the inception, and I've just wrapped up a term as the chair. As I pass the leadership torch, I am pleased to introduce my successor, Matt Vance. I'm not sure he's actually here tonight, who is the elected Wilson Neighborhood Council Steering Committee Chair, along with Chair-elect Gail Yost and Secretary William Hochstedler. Since our launch, the Wilson Neighborhood Council has served as a liaison between our community and Logan City staff and elected officials. Our advocacy on project-based activities have included tree plantings, neighborhood street and park cleanups, and the installation of storm drain plaques to help inform the public that what goes into our stormwater system ends up in the Logan River, which is a tributary to the Bear River and the Great Salt Lake. We advocated successfully for the Logan River Task Force Native Plant Landscape Plan for Stewart Nature Park instead of the planned mowed turf retention basin, which would have been in violation of the restrictive nature park deed from 1972. We also advocated successfully for the prevention of a 72-foot-long paved boat ramp on the north bank of the Logan River between the bridges at Stewart Nature Park. Speaking of tributaries, the north branch of the Logan River, known as the Little Logan River, is a jurisdictional natural stream channel and tributary to the Bear River, hence waters of the U.S., which are subject to the protections of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers with the Federal Clean Water Act and state engineer, which is why the city applies for stream alteration permits for projects such as the extension of 200 East from Center Street to 300 South in 2012, and why Willow Ski Lake subdivision developer Brett Jensen applied for a stream alteration permit for the culvert at 1400 West in 2023. Likewise, the NRCS 580 rule prohibits diminishing stormwater capacity. We also lobbied successfully for the city to support an email management platform for neighborhood newsletters and announcements, and I encourage everyone to sign up for their neighborhoods as well as the mayor's newsletter. You'll find the quick link on the City of Logan government website landing page. Wilson neighbors are invited to a Wilson Neighborhood Free Snow Cone Social on Wednesday, August 27th from 6 to 7 p.m. in River Hollow Park, the park where the Logan River forks into the north and south branches, with the South Branch now called the Logan River and the North Branch called the Little Logan River, which is on plat maps and legal property descriptions as the North Branch of the Logan River and as a historic river upon which the city was founded. Thank you.
Thanks, Hillary.
Thank you. Thank you.
What time was the event on the 27th?
Hillary, what time is the event on the 27th?
6 to 7 p.m. Sorry, I was trying to speak too fast because the beeper was going.
While you were speaking, yeah, pretty great.
Well, we asked 3 minutes.
And you got the signal last.
Okay.
3 minutes shows up at 3.59, right?
It's next Wednesday, August 27th, 6 to 7 p.m. at River Hollow Park. Free snow cones.
Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council at this time? Seeing no one, we will move on to the mayor's, if the mayor has anything she would like to add.
I do not this evening. I will have reports at next council meeting, but not tonight.
Okay, perfect. We'll move on to council business. We will, Planning Commission last week recommended denial for a rezone of 20.06 acres at 1300 West and 450 South. He wanted to rezone them from NR4 to NR6. And the Woodruff Neighborhood Plan had called out that area as staying as NR4. And I think the discussion revolved around trying to keep with the neighborhood plan and what they had hoped for that area. In addition to that, there was a request for a rezone of 0.21 acres at 165 North, 200 East. And, but I will say, I should have said with this one, the zone change will come to us as well. So they just recommend denial to us, and we will hear it again. So there will be a workshop, there will be a public hearing with respect to that in this chamber as well. The same with the zone change for 165 North, 200 East from NR6 to TC2. There will be, again, they recommended approval to us, but it will again come to this body for a final decision. And last but not least, they, Willow Lakes Phase 5, their PD overlay that they have chosen to do for the last piece of their development, had its first hearing at Planning Commission. Planning Commission voted to send it on to us. We will have another hearing with respect to that in this body as well. And beyond that, there was a design review permit for a retail building of 6,700 square feet that will be next to the Quick Quack Car Wash by Costa. So that was Planning Commission last Thursday. In addition to that, we all trade off doing board and committee reports, and this meeting, it is my responsibility and Mark Anderson's responsibility, I think. Mark? Yeah. I can honestly say that Airport Authority Board was canceled, and I went to Planning Commission, and that's all I've done in a month because I went on vacation. So I did call into 2 meetings, but other than that. Mark, do you have anything you'd like to add to your committee assignments? Mark? Are they there? Okay, we'll come back if Mark's around. I don't know where they are. Do you know if they're still on? They're not? Okay. Mike just said our call dropped and nobody is answering when I call back.
We're back on.
Oh, are you on?
Yep, we're back on.
Okay. Mark, do you have a report for us on committee assignments?
I do. I will be brief since we've had some connection issues, but Golf Advisory Board did not meet. We don't meet during the summertime. Economic Development didn't meet. Historic Preservation Committee met yesterday, but I was here at the UAMPS conference, so I was unable to attend. But Mike and I are here at the UAMPS annual conference, and we're learning a lot about light and power and the market and a lot of the changes that are happening in the market. So we both have discussed that it's been a very, very important conference for us to be at, and so many things that we're able to learn. So it's been a really great opportunity for us to be here. I also met with the... Oops, sorry.
Matthew, please don't do
Go
that.
ahead, Mark.
Keep going.
Okay. We also have, actually, I met with the Cache County Steering Committee for the Recreation Center, and that is coming along very, very well. And we should have some hard data to start sharing with some of our shareholders fairly soon. But the company that's running the survey, who are doing a very, very, very thorough job, by the way, they will be compiling more data, and we are planning on meeting the first week of September for another review of the information they've got. It's been a really interesting process, and I think, like I said, they're doing an amazing job, and they're bringing us some really, really great information from the community on what we need for a recreation center.
Great. Anything else?
I think we'll stick with that for right now.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll move on now to our action items. Our first action item this evening is a public hearing on a code amendment. I'll turn the time over to Mike Desimone to give us a review.
Greetings.
Greetings.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Okay. We're going to talk about ordinance 2511. It's a proposal to amend the critical lands overlay zone in chapter 1724 of the Land Development Code. So what I'm going to do is just set a little bit of context for it, just to kind of help frame the discussion so that we all know what we're talking about. So critical lands, there's a few things that we regulate, but generally what we're talking about now are a little bit about floodplains, wetlands, and riparian areas. They're all related, but they're all different. So each element has a set of different rules, a set of different regulations, different purposes, and they're also regulated differently by different elements or different entities. So the Corps regulates development within a wetland, and they go to the jurisdictional boundary. You've got entities that regulate development within a stream or a river, and they typically look at the edge of the water inward. So like Hillary mentioned about alteration permit, things like that. And then you have like FEMA, which looks at the floodplain, and that is essentially outside the water, but prepares for any kind of event, typically a 100-year type of event. So we did this back in 2023. We adopted some standards for floodplain development to bring us into compliance with changes to state and federal law relative to floodplain development. We basically anywhere in the country you're required to elevate your building above the base flood elevation. We went from 1 foot, which is the normal standard, to 2 foot. We're not changing anything with this. We are talking about wetlands a little bit. Basically, you've got certain types of vegetation, certain types of soils, certain types of hydrology. All those have to be present within an area to be considered a wetland. This just shows you a plat that was developed a few years ago, and that area that's got the blue line around it is a delineated wetland. So it's where somebody has said, here's a boundary of a wetland versus a boundary of a non-wetland area. So we regulate outside that boundary, and the Corps of Engineers regulates from that line inward. Okay. Riparian areas, typically you've got a channel, a stream, a river, and then the riparian area is that area that's adjacent to it. So a riparian area is not just the water, it's that environment that's adjacent to the water that wouldn't survive if you weren't in close proximity to the water. So typically a resource agency will regulate within the channel. We have chosen to regulate beyond the channel as an additional means of protection. So prior to the change in 2023, we adopted a new land development code back in 2011, and at that time we had consolidated the the scattering we had of critical lands rules, put in some new rules, and then we adopted that as part of that code update in 2011. 2019, we had an annexation on the Kunzler property, and then we had the Willow Lakes project that followed up in 2021 that elevated all of our concern about our critical lands and the adequacy of our standards. So we adopted new rules in 2023 after Willow Lakes project came through and got approved. We did it at the same time to meet FEMA requirements. And in 2023, we adopted more significant riparian wetland restrictions. And then what we've realized since then is that what we came up with in 2023 was a reaction to that project and not as smooth or easy to administer as we thought it would be. So Willow Lakes in 2021, when we saw that project come through, there was a lot of backlash. The perception was it's this huge floodplain, you're destroying wetlands. And really it's about change, right? We're changing from an agricultural area to, in this case, a water ski lake, but also just development in general. And so we saw these types of images. When you look at that, you're like, it's wet. You see that, it's all wetland. That's the perception. This is based on a national wetland inventory map, so it's all not speculatory, but it's not precise. And the reality is, so this is perception, right? And then this is reality. The reality is they went through the process to delineate their floodplain in conjunction with the city and with FEMA and their private engineers and our engineer. And this is what they've mapped as a 100-year floodplain. So the red shows that. The project was designed to accommodate that. They had to do some amendments with FEMA to get their project approved, but this essentially shows that floodplain. So you look at that map and you compare it to that, and there's quite a bit of difference. But again, this is regulated to a 100-year event and not anything beyond that. This is the delineated wetland map that came out of it. So the project proponents hired consultants. They went through and did the analysis. This is how they delineated the site. And again, this is perception. It looks like it's all wet. It's all wet there, but it's not necessarily a wetland per se. And then this is the reality of it. Okay, so we start big, we kind of narrow it down and it's focused. So when we regulate, we don't regulate based on the perception, we regulate based on the reality. And we require a specific delineation for a wetland or for a floodplain or for a riparian area. And this is what they ended up with. Obviously, it's a project with some approvals, and then the green area is the areas that were set aside as part of their conservation mitigation package. So why are we doing this? Why are we changing it? Why do we bring upon ourselves this hate and discontent? We have a lot of other things to do, but really what we realize is since 2023, we've had some problems in trying to apply the rules, especially in wetlands. And so as I looked at the wetland standards, I also said, well, what about our riparian areas? Because the bulk of Logan is built out. We've got these rules that require a 3-tiered system of a riparian area with a setback at 100 feet. So it didn't seem realistic or reasonable to apply that in areas that were already developed out. It just didn't seem equitable to me as a private property owner if my neighbors were already built out and I had to set way back. And so that's part of the context of why are we having the discussion. And then there are other issues that have come up, especially in the riparian areas. What do we define as a riparian area? How do we establish that? What's our basis for saying this is a natural stream versus this is a man-made alteration of a natural stream? And so hopefully the rules that we come up with, we better articulate why we're regulating, what we're regulating, and really make us all aware of the intent behind what we're trying to get at. It's not to be punitive towards a certain element. It's to protect the environment, but also be reasonable. So our existing definition of a riparian area is it's land within 150 feet of a stream or river that drains a big basin, and then also land within 25 feet of a stream that drains a small area. And within that parameter, we've got a riparian area that ranges in size 50 to 300 feet in width. And that's on either side of a creek or a stream, regardless of the actual environment that's adjacent to that water body. So what we proposed was a change in the definition to go from a generic application to more of a specific application. Anything within 100 feet of the ordinary high water mark of a stream or river or even a man-made water course as regulated by the State Engineer's Office, the Division of Water Rights, or the Corps of Engineers. And the reason I took this language from Riverton just as our starting point was, we rely on the Corps of Engineers to delineate a wetland or to accept a delineation. And this is kind of the same logic is we should have a regulatory entity tell us what is and what isn't a riparian area, and then we can apply our regulations kind of on the edges or the buffers of that. So the proposed changes in the riparian areas, again, we have a 3-tiered system. It's 0 to 50, 50 to 100, and then 100 to 150. And then within that, we have a 100-foot building setback. The proposal is to go back to our old standard of a 25-foot setback. And we should really get away from calling it a setback, and we should say it's a riparian, or a buffer, I'm sorry. So a 25-foot riparian buffer area from the ordinary high water mark. And that would be for all structures, development uses, road construction, et cetera. And then I added some additional language since our workshop was to get at the areas that are outside of Logan, which are still greenfield developments or future greenfield areas. And in these areas, require that 100-foot buffer area. And then also, if you're adjacent to the Logan River, also require that if you, as a condition of annexation, you're providing a dedication of a public conservation and trail easement along the river, similar to what was required or negotiated with Willow Lakes. This is our existing graphic. Just shows those 3 zones. Why eliminate that? And I'll show you just a picture in just a second. But the question is, how reasonable is this 100-foot setback in a built environment? And when you look at Logan from the mouth or the first dam down to 10th West and even further out, there's not a lot of area that's available for private development that's considered greenfield. Within the area next to Logan River down to about 10th, there's a dozen lots, give or take. And then there's some scattering of lots along some of the other waterways and then going out to Willow Lake. But really, there's no big tracts that are available for development. It's all primarily infill, other than Willow Lakes, which is a platted subdivision. That's a little bit different. So this is just our property, Logan City property, up across from the water lab, and it just shows you the application of the current setback scheme is 100 feet and puts a house back here. This is a 25-foot approach. Again, this is an infill lot. You've got houses on either side that are built at 20 feet, 25 feet or closer, and this would bring that lot to parity with those adjoining lots. So the other proposed changes, riparian area, is to change a little bit on the disturbance and clearing. Just within that entire 100-foot strip, limit the clearing to 50% as opposed to the 3-tiered approach of 10%, 50%, 10%. One of the other shortfalls of the code change in 2023 would be left out things. We didn't really address things that happen or occur in a riparian area. So parks and trails, bridges, utilities, certain roads, they're going to be located within a riparian area just by nature of their function. People want to walk on a trail next to a river. Trapper Park has been built next to the river. We have a lot of recreational elements that are next to riparian or wetland areas that really are a nice amenity, so we should continue that. Ag setbacks, so any kind of new agricultural activity should remain at 50 feet. But again, we don't have a ton of ag land in Logan City, and we don't want to annex any ag land per se. And then we also clarified how we treat nonconformities and how you expand those. So if you want to expand a nonconforming building, so looking back at this picture, if I wanted to expand this house away from the river, do it as a matter of permit, but if I wanted to expand it closer to the river, then it would have to go through a CUP type of process. We just tried to clarify how we would regulate those. So wetlands, we're proposing some changes. Again, it's based on those 3 criteria. You have to have all of them present to be a wetland. And we were talking about those regulations that go from the edge of a delineated boundary landward. The Corps regulates everything from that boundary inward. Now we have some, well, part of the changes was to clarify where these rules apply. They would only apply to jurisdictional wetlands. So a wetland that is within the jurisdiction of the Corps of Engineers, they've accepted the delineation. They said, yeah, this is ours because of these factors. There are wetlands out there that are non-jurisdictional. They're not associated with waters of the U.S. State law does not allow us to regulate those. unless they're accepted by a federal entity. So we've defaulted to it's got to be a jurisdictional wetland. We've also said that if you are within 100 feet of a potential wetland based on that earlier NWI map, then we're going to require a wetland delineation. If you're further away, then we're going to say, no, you're far enough away that we don't think there's an impact. There's no delineation required. And the delineation is just an expense that an applicant has to incur, and there are several thousands of dollars. So what we're trying to do is, if it's really required, do it. If it's not, then let's not require that. And then we had an issue come up with a project that had off-site wetlands, and we can't require, we have no way to say that you have to delineate a wetland on adjoining property. We can't give you that right because we don't have that right to give you. But I can see a wetland over there, so how do I regulate the development on this site relative to that site? And just what we said is based on our visual assessment, there's a wetland there, you've got to stay at least 25 feet away from it. And that's going to be approximately a guess because, again, we can't get on the property to delineate the boundary.
Meaning that we can't force somebody to get that delineation unless they're asking for it.
Right.
So, okay.
Other changes to the wetland standards is we clarified when we require information and we expect it. So if your project requires a delineation, then it's required to be submitted with a CUP or a design review application, not I'll turn it in later. It's got to be submitted with the application that's incomplete. And then if you have a project that involves a core permit, you're going to disturb a wetland, fill it or whatever, then you need to show us that you've applied for the permit at the time you've applied to us for our permits, and then you're required to provide a copy of the core permit when you apply for your building permit. So it's kind of a two-tiered system. Other changes to wetlands, we're proposing to change the setback from 50 feet to 25 feet for new structures, uses, and developments. And then I'll show you a graphic that helps illustrate this. We also put in there, if you're going to create a property line for residential lots, you've got to be at least 15 feet away from a delineated boundary. And the reason for doing that is that wetland has better chance of survival or success if it's maintained or owned by an overall arching group like an HOA or some other entity other than a private property owner. New road construction, 20 feet back from a delineated wetland is measured from back of curb. And then this is unchanged. Any structured use or development is 20 feet from a delineated wetland defined as a ditch or canal. So this is kind of what prompted part of our discussion early on was a project, Hogan Estates. They've got on their project site a series of ponds and wetlands. They've gone through the delineation process. It's taken a large amount of time to get to this point to have a redesign. But this shows you or illustrates kind of what we are proposing as far as setbacks. So here you have a residential lot, and the idea is that any area that's part of that wetland boundary would remain as part of an HOA, so some central entity can manage that. It's hard to read, but this shows you the setback from where the right-of-way would be, at least 20 feet back from this edge of wetland boundary. And then this illustrates kind of part of the discussion points we've had with Public Works about they've got to construct roads within a linear right-of-way, right? The right-of-ways are generally fixed. They can expand a little bit left or right based on the requirements of that nature of the roadway. And when you have a resource in the middle of or on the edge of a right-of-way, our rules make it a little bit challenging to expand that road within that right-of-way. So what we've said is, as long as you're expanding away from the resource, then we're not going to require additional review. If you're going to fill it, obviously you've got to go through the court to get a permit. So we tried to clarify and work with Public Works on how we apply the standards to new road or existing road additions and construction. And then just a couple other things similar to that.
So is the view that you show of that particular development with the rules you are proposing or with the rules that exist today?
This is with the proposed rules. They went ahead and redesigned their subdivision to reflect the proposed rule changes. We didn't tell them to do that, but this just gives us a good illustration to help kind of a good visual to help illustrate.
Do you still have the other one?
Pardon me?
Do you still have the other one?
No, not on this.
Okay.
I don't have it with me.
Okay.
And we never had one that that designed around the existing wetlands.
I thought he had an approval.
He had an approval based on changes that were going to happen. So this layout where this lot is, lot 21, it basically went up to the corner of the corner of the broader property, and it had the wetland within that individual lot. So it didn't really take into account that there's additional requirements. So it's not a good answer. I just have a hand-drawn or a hand one that's got circles on it, stuff that Russ had drawn up. But I don't have it with me.
Okay.
I could send it to you if you'd like.
Because I thought he had a different one that was approved through planning commission. So,
They approved a subdivision that was compliant with new rules to be crafted that were forthcoming. So it's either you comply with the existing standards that they are. If the rules don't change, you've got to design to that. If they do change, you've got to design, they'll design to the new standards. And they took it upon themselves to design to the new standards to help move them along in the process.
okay.
A couple other things that we added in here is the allowance for stormwater facilities in a wetland buffer setback area. So in looking at like this lot in particular, you can design a stormwater detention pond adjacent to a wetland that provides stormwater infiltration to that area, provides better water quality, but it has to be reviewed and approved by the city engineer and shown that it'll actually function, as opposed to just a stormwater pit. Again, we tried to address parks and rec facilities, underground utilities, bridges. Bridges is an obvious thing. It's going to happen over water, but it wasn't so obvious when we crafted the rules back in 2023. We just left it out. So, and with that, happy to answer any questions.
So you had mentioned platted subdivisions when you were talking about Willow Lakes. Can you explain that to me? Like that, since that's platted already, what the impact is of these changes?
Well, the difference between so this is a plat right here, and this is similar to like a Willow Lakes condition where we've got lot lines that are laid out. And in the case of Willow Lakes, we have an approved subdivision. It's gone through the process, it's been approved, it's recorded, and they are selling lots and building on lots. So that's different than the existing lots that have been platted back in the day as you work your way up the river, where you have a lot that's vacant that's surrounded by homes. It's got homes around it. So it's just really context. Willow Lakes is essentially undeveloped except for a few homes. This is undeveloped except for a subdivision on the side of it. The rest of Logan, the bulk of Logan is predominantly developed out. And so it's how do you apply a standard in a lot that's pretty much cleared next to an existing house. And the context is a little bit different than Willow Lakes, but it's the same principle.
Mike, Mark, do you have any questions? If you haven't dropped again.
I don't have any questions or comments at this moment. I have a lot of questions, but it's okay.
So the changes that are being proposed, what would change for something like Willow Lakes?
Well, so Willow Lakes is a little different, or it's not different, it's a little more complex. It doesn't really affect any of the lots that face or front along the Logan River. There's generally enough separation there. We've got a conservation easement in place that protects the riparian area. It's going to provide for trail use as well. The one area that I think you've been party to the email change that we've gone around and around about is this little stretch up here that forms the north boundary of Willow Lakes. This is, when you look at the plat maps, it's called the north branch of the Logan River. It's called the Little Logan. It's got a variety of different terms that's been applied to it. When we looked at the project, we're not experts in designating a stream or a river. We reached out to the state and we were told this is a man-made, it's not in their jurisdiction. And Hillary and I will argue about that all day because they did get a permit from the state for a stream restoration permit to do the project. It included the entire project, included a culvert over one of the ditches, and then it also included the wetland stream restoration project in that water body across the north boundary. So this piece of water, you can barely see the faint outline just north of it. It used to meander through this property to the north. It used to be, the natural water course was up there. And over in the early 60s, they dug this out, moved it, straightened it out. They used it for irrigation and drainage. So the question is whether or not it's a natural stream or river is up for interpretation. So the proposed rules, what it would do is get at that by just stating, whoops, sorry, hang on, this, that if one of these entities calls that out as a water body regulated by the state or the federal government, then we in turn would call that riparian, and we would say it's subject to our regulations. So now to get at more specifically your question, when we looked at this, there's 3 different setbacks that would apply, or 4 different setbacks. One is the canal or the channel in this canal was delineated as a wetland. So we have a standard setback off of a delineated wetland. We have a building setback off of the rear property line. Then we also have a zoning setback that goes off the top bank of a canal. So if it's a formally designated canal, there's a setback off of that. We also have, when we approved the plat originally, you get it vested rights. So what was the plat approved under, what set of regulations at the time? And at the time it was approved and then recorded in 2023, the riparian setback was 25 feet. So it has some rights to that establishment from back then. So the short answer is it would match what the proposal is 25 feet. If we don't agree with that, but I think Craig will say that's our interpretation of how we vested that project, then you would apply the new standard or the existing standard that has that 3-tiered system of those lots, which we don't think that's appropriate or relevant or legal.
Thank you.
Sorry, it was a long-winded answer.
Great information, thank you.
Any other questions at this time?
I have a lot of questions, but I will defer at this point in time.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Those members of the public who wish to speak to this ordinance, please come forward, state your name, where you live, take 3 minutes or less. And I know this is extremely complicated and you may only get one part of it, but do your best, I appreciate it.
Dr. Gail Yost. I'm very interested in seeing that people have a little more visual access to water, because it's very important to water and greenery for families to normalize, for people who are single even to normalize. We really need to have more of an established ability to reach watery areas so that, and without having to go all the way to the east of us, where we can't get through the canyon anyway. I think it's important for us to feel like we have access to at least see the water. We don't have to necessarily be splashing in the water, but to even have the sight and the listening ability of what water does for us. It's very calming, it's very necessary, and if we have less land between us and where the water is, I think it's very helpful to establishing more sanity. I know that sounds a little strange, but it really does make a difference. Greenery and water make a difference to how we live and how soothing it is to us during our lives.
Thank you,
And
Gail.
I'm in Logan.
Okay, thank you.
My name's Christy Tracy. I'm in Logan. I've been trying to understand all the changes in this, and the main thing I'm stuck on, well, not the main thing, but one of the main things about all the stuff that was taken out, the 3 stages of the riparian areas, the 3 zones, that there's limitations on the sizes of trees that can be taken out, and if they are taken out, then they have to be replaced with native species. And specifically in one of the sections that is replacing it, it says that the disturbed areas are to be restored within 60 days of disturbance, but they are specifically taking out using native vegetation. So it can be replaced with whatever, which is against the whole idea of a riparian zone, which is its own ecology and its own ecosystem, and why not stick with that? And I'm just kind of, I don't understand why we're going away from the 3 zones. You said that there's like maybe 12 properties along the river. I think it's kind of ingenious to put those up there, and about developing them when it's going to really affect all these big things that you're looking forward to. People that have already built their plans on something that doesn't exist yet, but apparently they've gotten the word somewhere that it's going to be okay. So they've already done all their stuff according to the new information instead of what was old. And it not being obvious, I'm asking, I guess, was it not obvious 2 years ago in 2023 that you were going to be building bridges across water, and that was not allowed in the old stuff? It's only been 2 years. It's not like things have drastically changed. So I'm just kind of wondering why now, and who's benefiting? Again, who's benefiting? And we need to keep our green, and we need to keep our wetlands. And further out, I just see this going further and further and further, and then pretty soon it'll be 10 feet. And I just am very questioning of why this is going through and who is going to be benefiting.
I do need to, thanks Christy, but I do need to be clear about one thing. That particular project was approved in 2021.
No, I'm talking about the other one.
Okay, the Hogan one, yeah, okay. Just so we're clear.
Hi, I am Suzanne Janicki. I'm an emerita professor at USU in the geosciences, and I have taught hazards.
And you live?
And I live in North Logan.
Okay, thank you.
And I am an advocate for the North Branch of the Logan River, which is also known as the Little Logan River. I am very concerned about what's happening here, in part because of flooding that's happened in Texas, and gravity will just simply pull water down into the lowest elevation parts of the area. And it's pretty clear that LIDAR and topographic maps were not used to delineate the biggest hazards. So even on an old topographic map, there are channels here showing that water flooding in the south branch of the Logan River in the past was carried across dozens of channels that I can see and map across this whole area to the north branch of the Logan River, to the lowest areas in the northwest part of the Willow Lakes property. And that area will have the highest flooding, and that's where people will have the greatest property damage. And they are not going to have flooding just in your red band. It looks like LIDAR was not used in your analysis, because it's not, even the old topographic map shows these dozens of channels that connect between the north branch and the south branch. There were channels there that were regularly carrying water across there. My friend Jean Lown has paddled across his property during past floods. So even though it's not delineated as a floodplain, the water will be carried by gravity into the lowest elevation, and those people building their homes there will have issues with flooding. And it could be pretty serious because now that we have climate change, flooding is more severe, it's less predictable, we have more intense events. The possibility of the property owners along any parts of the North Branch or the South Branch of the Logan River suffering the severe flooding event is just becoming more and more serious going forward into the future. So I'm quite concerned that the most modern information was not used to assess where flooding is likely, and I think that a setback should be at least 50 feet. It's being reduced from 100 feet to 25. It's not being reduced from 50 to 25. That was, I don't believe that was incorrect. And yeah, I'm very concerned also because flood insurance is a national effort, and it may not be available to these property owners in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. I'm Gail Hansen, and I live in Logan. This is a screenshot from the February 2023 presentation. And I'll get on record.
And that just makes obvious that we're not reducing from 50 feet to 25 feet. We're reducing from 100 feet to 25 feet. So that was kind of interesting, went past fast. I remember back when they first developed west of 10th West and they called the development Artesian Meadows. And I laughed and laughed because that was not false advertising. An artesian spring is a natural source of water. Let's see. My question is, there's stuff about infilling, and I understand that if your neighbor's got a building within 25 feet of the river, why shouldn't you be able to? I get that, and that's a legitimate question and should be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. But, sorry, forgot to give you this one. That the developers did not even try to meet the current standards, that they hired somebody to do the proposed standards. Troubles me, makes me anxious. If somebody made their investment, if they bought this property based on the hope that the ordinance would change, I am sorry for them. I have been snookered myself. I have not asked the city to bail me out and make sure that I did it, that I get my money out of it. On the Willow Lakes thing with the Little Logan River, what if the developers bought the old stream bed and restored the riparian area clear out to the old stream bed? That'd be a lot of money, but there's financing available. I noticed that on the sign when I went out there. The big sign that says Cache Valley Bank will finance your purchase. And that's a little bit, that makes me a little anxious too, that there's that relationship. Let's see. That's, I think, it. I'm sorry if somebody's made an investment based on false information. I feel bad about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail.
Josh Muller from Logan. I love cat videos. Now, I know you've done a lot of work on this, but yeah, 25 to 100 feet, or 100 feet to 25. The closer human beings get to natural habitat, they tend to destroy. Human beings just have this habit, especially baying.
Hey, you've reached Mike Johnson. Please leave me a message.
Well, sorry about that,
No,
Josh.
okay.
We'll give you a few seconds extra on that one.
But human beings have a tendency to destroy most everything. If they can make money off of it, they will destroy it. By letting development get closer to our wetlands, especially with lawns, with all the things, of course there's going to be these pristine, perfect lawns for these, these vacation homes, that mainly only the upper class can afford. The leach it, from the dump, I've been trying to learn more about the underwater aquifer, what they're tapping into. And I don't know, questions like, is the leachate coming from the dump? Is that dumping into that underwater aquifer, which they're going to be pumping up into the lake? With the chemicals, are they going to, is that going to become problematic when it comes to algae bloom outbreaks? These types of lakes are very prone to that. And with something like that happening, and you have, this whole system is, oh man, I read through a lot of your stuff, and I'm just, there's a lot to it. But we can't get closer to the wetlands. We just can't. We will destroy them the closer we get. It's ridiculous that this project even happened here in Logan. This is so far against anything that, that fits in Cache Valley. I don't know, I just, on this project, so, thanks.
Hi, Matthew Patuasi. I live here in Logan. I would like to provide some more context on what is making this change available. So what basically is happening is we're changing the municipal code so it's in accordance with state and national levels. We're deferring our responsibility on regulating it on a local matter to those levels of jurisdiction. And in 2023, there was a big Supreme Court case that changed the definitions of wetlands, which seems to be what is being taken advantage of here by the more financially funded, I would say. So it was the EPA versus Sackett case, and it seems to be that as opposed to, holding the line where the conservation standards were back during that court case, we're admittingly rolling it back. And remember, this was the Supreme Court that decided that the Trump instantiated one where they don't necessarily care about environmentally friendly elements. I would say that we do have a sinister element of capitulation to realtors, investments, and everything like that from our wonderful development of code changes and everything like that, given again by the fact that the groups that already have these plans already knew about all of these changes, where apparently these take a very long time, but they were very swiftly able to make changes in accordance with this new change that we have yet to even pass in the first place. Lastly, I would ask that another topic that we didn't end up getting discussed was the change of plant-free placement in the case of the construction and everything like that. It was being changed from native to just plants in general. And I would ask that Mark Anderson end up advocating from voting on this due to a conflict of interest. Also, there's other elements here too where the logic is clearly more incentivized towards destroying the wetland to make it easier to do so. Because again, we have the lake that's drying up there, or that little stream that's drying up because construction was done further east in Logan, and so now it's considered not an official wetland but an artificial one in that regard, which seems to be weird that it's not regulated when we bothered to get permits to do the construction there. As he said, there's a lot of backwards stuff going on here. Again, vote no. This looks like it was made by AI, blah, 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 blah. This is bad. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matthew.
Lori Shugart, Logan Wilson Neighborhood. Thank you for the opportunity to weigh in on the proposed amendments to the Critical Lands Overlay Zone. There are a lot of moving parts in the edited documents, and for a science-based standard for such important decisions, it would be nice to see the city take advantage of the local brain bank in the Logan River Task Force before taking action with a pendulum swing so extreme as to cut river setbacks from 100 feet to 25 feet. And to clarify, it gives an example of how confusing it all is, because I believe Mike was talking about setbacks from wetlands, there's setbacks from riparian areas, so there's just a whole lot of different, there's so much changed all at once that I'm not sure anybody's been able to really absorb it all. But it leaves little, if any, room for the natural shifts in the river's meanders. Worse, due to the vested rights rule, the new lower standards will be applied and grandfathered to all new building permits. This is a potentially harmful mistake which will have irreversible impacts. The Willow Lake subdivision has been recorded with the lot lines, but any permit that is submitted will be held to the current code. So if we roll back what we did in reaction to them, we're just erasing everything that we had decided was better. Let's not make short-sighted, uninformed changes to the code intended to protect our natural resources. If exceptions are warranted, let's use the existing laws to find the best compromise. Let's use a butter knife instead of a guillotine. Let's avoid unnecessary negative impacts to our natural stream environment and the aesthetic and recreational value of our rivers. Let's create solutions which meet our needs rather than allowing a broad pendulum swing to undo recent project. The wider the buffers, the greater the benefits. It's that simple. In addition to consultation with the Logan River Task Force, let's consider establishing an environmental commission to promote the stewardship and preservation of the city's environment and natural resources and to ensure sustainable and environmentally responsible development. I would also like to see the city host an online public comment platform. Salt Lake City has a good template which improves transparency and ensures public comments are added to the public meeting record. This helps to foster entry-level civic engagement and elevates the sharing of pertinent information. Last but not least, I would like for the city to pass a resolution for the preservation of the north branch of the Logan River, known as the Little Logan River. This is the historic public river upon which the city of Logan was founded. Let's stop the degradation of the natural stream environment of what was once the best urban river for catching free trout for dinner and remains the best tubing river in town. The north and south branches of the Logan River formed the Logan Island long before the city of Logan was established. And we owe it to, I have 2 more seconds. If the beeper were off, you could hear me. Could you please turn off the beeper and may I have 10 more seconds?
Yes, you may have time.
The north and south branches of the Logan River formed the Logan Island long before the city of Logan was established, and we owe it to future generations to be good stewards of this precious natural resource, which flows through a dozen public parks, and I list all the parks. I think everybody can figure those out on a map. We need to take care of this resource, and it is, I don't know how there was ever any confusion. Yes, it was relocated, it's been relocated in many places, but it's on plat maps, and as you said, they applied for and got the stream alteration permit. That tells you that it's under the jurisdiction of the state engineer's office. There's really no confusion. It's a river from the fork to the confluence, and we need to take care of it. Thank you.
So I wish you guys would read the back of your programs, because it's really distracting for us to have people clapping. We want to listen to what people are saying.
You
So,
hold birthday during messages.
is there anyone else who wishes to speak to this?
Mayor and council, appreciate you letting me take a moment. My name is Kent Hogan. I'm part of the Hogan subdivision. I appreciate the fact that what staff has spent many, many hours trying to put something together that that handles the different scenarios for rivers and floodplain and wetlands. I think Logan City is a protector of wetlands. I've developed in many cities in Utah, and I don't know of any other city that has an ordinance that requires any setback from what the Army Corps delineates. We spent $29,000 in a year and a half to go through the Army Corps to identify the wetland and the boundaries. And we feel like that the 25 feet is ample. In any other city in the state of Utah, we could go right up to the delineation point. I appreciate your time and your efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Brad Hogan. I'm actually the owner of this property for 28 years. I farmed it. So, and I'm not a realtor, I'm a rancher. I want it understood, we started on this in 22. While we were at Army Corps, we were told to take 90 days. It took 18 months. While we were gone 18 months, you put in the 23 change on us. We've redesigned this 5 times. So don't say, I've spent an extra $100,000 redesigning this over and over again for Logan City. I think sometimes it's easy. I'm a rancher. I've got creeks running through my ranch and I protect it. I protect the animals up there. This here, I think we have done a very good job working with Logan City and doing everything we've been asked to do. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to do this right. You said, yeah, we come in prepared with the next one because the other one takes $400,000 out of this project and makes it so we can't pave 1,000 feet of paved road for Logan City. It isn't feasible because of the things we have to do for the city and everybody else. Well, I think we've come to a good compromise here. And now, I didn't know Logan City was going to come up with this. There's no collusion with Logan City on this 25 feet. We did this after I got a copy of what was going to be proposed. And this was all done in the last couple of weeks, trying to get ready for this meeting so that we could be prepared to show you what it looked like and that it would work and it was properly done. We have no river running through it. These are 3 little ponds that Logan City owns almost half of some of them. The road of Logan City, the 1400, runs on the west side of this property. We donated 42 feet. Now we got to donate another 25 feet. So we're not donating just 25 feet. We've already donated 42, and this is another 25 feet. We've bent over backward to try to do this right and do whatever Logan City's asked us to do. I'm a little frustrated because I came in here in 1999 with 6.5 acres, and I asked to be annexed into the Logan City. I bought the grounds in the county because I thought someday this will be developed. I wanted it done wrong. I wanted it on sewer and I wanted it on city water rather than septic tanks and wells. That's why I asked to be annexed into Logan City in 1999. So we've done everything we can to try to do this right so that it is done right. You know, I've got sewers out there, septic tanks running in the ground, 30 of them or whatever, 26 in this. Well, originally it was a 30-lot subdivision. Now it's a 26-lot subdivision. But I just want you to know that I feel like Logan City's gone far beyond trying to do the right thing. I don't know anything about the lakes thing. I don't know anything about that. I have no Logan River running through my property. I've got 3 little ponds that are surrounded with irrigation water. That's what really keeps them full. You can say artesian spring. Army Corps says it's not. It's subwater from irrigation. That's what they tell us. So all I'm saying is we're trying to protect the wetlands. We've tried to do it right. And I agree with what Logan City's idea has come up to on my case. I have nothing to do or don't know how it applies to somebody else. I don't know. But I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
She said she wanted to speak more. Did she take my 3 minutes?
No. So if no one else cares to speak, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for a decision.
Jeannie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I know Mark kind of mentioned earlier, and sometimes it's hard to hear each other and hear us when we're on the phone. But I know that I've had a lot of questions throughout this process. I know there's a lot of complexities to it, and I appreciate all the public comment and the concerns shared. And I think if we're looking for a motion right now, my motion would be to continue this, and I think we could spend a little bit more time looking at it and trying to refine it and making sure that it's exactly what our community and our city needs. This is take a few more weeks on it to do some refining and research would be my motion to continue it.
Is there a second to that, if that's a formal motion?
So can I clarify some things with you, Mike? First, we would need a date of what we would be moving it to. So I propose continuing it to the October 7th meeting. And because it is so complex, as we work with our community development office, I would think too, if there's any substantial changes, it should be either referred back to Planning Commission for them to weigh in, or go back through our procedure of workshopping and then an additional public hearing if there's any substantial changes that come through when it comes back on the 7th.
Substantial changes to
what's been proposed. Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I think continuing it to our first meeting in October works well for me. And yeah, if we get substantial changes, we can send it back to Planning Commission through the process.
So your proposal is to continue the ordinance until October 7th to work out some of the questions that we have and that we've been discussing since the workshop 2 weeks ago, and bring it back on October 7th, but if it has substantially changed, it may go to a workshop the week before and then see it on October 7th, or would that be the workshop?
The 7th would be, well, I think substantial changes. I mean, if it feels like it should go back to Planning Commission, we would make that determination on the 7th. So.
Okay. Is that okay?
Is that too muddy?
Are you continuing a public hearing, or?
If we make substantial changes, we would sort of start over.
We refer it back to the Planning Commission if there were substantial changes.
We may or we may not, but yeah. So
that depends on whether we approve it or not. So I've got a lot of questions too. I think there's been some really excellent public comments today and some input that we received via email that have just raised more questions in my mind. And I'd really like to do more research into what has been suggested. I think it's worth taking the time. Whether we go from 100 down to 25, that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is we get this right. We get it right the first time and not rush it. So I would second Mike's motion to continue to the 7th.
Do you have any comments, Ernesto?
I'd like to ask community development to bring us more what other cities do for this, like actual setbacks that they currently have. I'd like to know maybe, I don't know, 10 cities that you guys could look at for us.
And I know some of the comments that were made about kind of those infill lots that we should do a case by case, which I'm really uncomfortable as a city saying that we're going to have different rules for different things, but I don't know if it's possible to address the issues of those kind of infill lots, even if it's a separate ordinance, just because that feels different to me than some of the other broader things. I have no idea if that's possible, but that's just one of the things that's, as I read through this earlier and then just with some of the comments, it feels like there's almost two separate issues to me. With the existing smaller lots, so you said there's about a dozen of those lots.
Yeah, we can have.
We're clarifying that a little bit more closely in some way. I don't know.
I guess we just need direction on what we're looking for us to provide you as far as change or different direction or more data. It's got to help us out so I know which way I'm going with where it is I'm going with.
Well, I feel, personally, I feel like Amy, in terms of the 10 to 12 dozens or so lots that are technically what I would term infill, if we could find a way to justify a setback that was relational to the environment in which the building is going to be put. So if one house is 35 feet back and the other one on the other side is 10, maybe we say it has to be the greater of the two or something. So that we get some sort of, we don't have this, 10, 20, 30, 50 like this along the river in a built environment. I personally would like us to keep a somewhat larger, it's not a setback technically, it's a buffer. And I think that we get confused in our language when we don't use buffer instead of setback.
Right.
But I would like to see us the only place Logan is going to grow is out to the west. And the more we grow to the west, and the more we grow inward, of course, but people will want to develop and do something out west. And if we do that, I think that we need to have some strict regulations that are in place that don't change for those potential new developments in the future.
And that is in there though, correct? That anybody that's annexed that's not, you said the property outside of Logan, the 100-foot buffer would be in place for properties outside of Logan that are brought in. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, just for at least give me a little bit of direction, are you okay with changing the definition of how we establish a riparian area? Because if we agree with this, then what we can do is we can map out, we can quantify what in the city at certain points is vacant and would be developable, and what would it look like under current rules or proposed rules. And so that way we can define within Logan City, not have the argument about, well, is it the North Branch, Little Logan, is it just the river, or is it a canal, or whatever. We just say, okay, if it's regulated, then on this stretch of river, what is vacant and what does this look like? Because I think what happens is there's the perception is that we're destroying everything in the world by changing the setback, when in fact there's not a lot of land available for development within the confines of Logan City as it exists. So to say that we're changing this in a situation where it's already been altered and it's pretty much, there's not a ton of riparian area left. So if you agree with this kind of this benchmark of starting point, then we can go back and give you better data on what really is the impact. Does that make sense?
I think I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. How about you?
With that, yes, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
So given that, does anyone else have any other comments they would like to make before we vote?
On the continuance?
Yes.
No,
Ernesto, any other comments? Mike, Mark, any other comments before we vote on continuance?
I like what Mike's saying, because we really are dealing with 4 different things here, not just one. And so it seems like every time as a council we've been able to continue something and really do some research on it, we've come back with some really great solutions that have been very effective. So I'd like to try and do that again.
Okay, Mike, anything?
No, I don't have any further comments at this time.
Okay, then I will call for a vote. Mike, this is for the continuance.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Yes, continuing to October 2nd, I am an aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ernesto?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Jeannie? Aye. This has been continued, and as we said, if there are substantial changes, it will go through another process that will give you a public hearing.
And continue to write us with your comments.
Yes, please.
They've been helpful.
Will there be no public comment on the next one?
Jeannie?
Yes.
Can I suggest that the Hogans try and get in touch with me, especially maybe some of the other council members, because I would like to know more of their situation, what's going on, because I think it's very different than what we're exploring with everybody else. I'd just like to get more information from them as well.
Oh, I didn't hear all that.
I couldn't understand you, Mark.
Yeah.
Can you?
Wanted more information? You can email it. I'll just email the Hogans. It's fine.
Just
Don't worry.
text it to me and I will read it into the record.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So if the ordinance does not change, there will not be another public hearing, but if it does change, there will be. So, and given the number of questions that we have, I anticipate it's changing. So, we'll move now to ordinance 25-12. The adoption of a national incident management system as the standard for incident management and establishing compliance for federal funding eligibility.
So we'll see, Ron, if there's as much public comment for you as there was for this one.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor, Chairman, and Chairwoman, and as well as the council members. So today would be for the proposition of ordinance 25-12, which is for the adoption of the National Incident Management System. I'd just like to highlight one thing about this is that we actually saw this exercised in real world with the Green Canyon Fire, which was a great response. It was organized. I was deeply impressed with the first responders. It was handled quickly in an organized manner. So kudos to the Logan City Fire Department as well as our partners. So that is proof of that NIMS works, ICS works, and that was a real world event. So at this time, I don't want to dive into the weeds like I did the first time when this was talked about, but I'd like to open the floor to any questions from any of the members at this time.
I don't have any questions.
Does adopting this system better prepare us to provide better resources to other languages besides English?
Yes, it is a requirement for a lot of the federal grants and the grants that will be available to us, such as we'll be able to get more resources, upscale our emergency operations center, as well as communications, our incident command trailer, so on and so forth. So that will enhance our preparedness efforts here at Logan City.
Thank you.
Mike, Mark, do you have any questions?
Not at this moment.
No, we're good. Thank you.
Okay, this is not a public hearing, correct, Craig? So I will entertain a motion.
I'll move we approve the adoption of the National Incident Management System, Ordinance 25-12.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. We will do a roll call vote again. Amy?
Aye.
Ernesto?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Jeannie? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
We'll move now to our budget adjustments, Resolution 25-33. Rich, I'll turn the time over to you.
There are 3 grants to consider. The first one is a request to appropriate $2,449 for an EMS grant from the state of Utah. Second is a $5,000 grant also from the state of Utah for library, prints, and supplies. And lastly, a $40,000 grant from Cigna for employee wellness. So Cigna is our healthcare provider. They give us this grant. They've done it several years in the past. We use it to promote wellness, hopefully improve our utilization.
Well, the fact that we do promote wellness enables us to get the grant. They don't just give it to us in hopes that we'll do it. We have a program. Okay, any questions? This is a public hearing. If there's any member of the public left that would like to speak to this, please come to the microphone, state your name and where you live, and take 3 minutes or less, please. Seeing no one, bring it back to the council for a decision.
I would move acceptance of Resolution 25-33.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mike. All those, we'll do a roll call vote. Sorry. Mike?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Ernesto?
Aye.
Jeannie? Aye. Thank you. We'll move now to our workshop items. Our first workshop item is our paper.
Yay, our favorite meeting of the year with
Resolution 25-34. Amanda.
Hello.
Hello. How are ya?
Good. Made it this far, so.
It's so fun to be able to say we're funding projects.
Yes, completing them.
Yes.
Okay, the Community Development Block Grants Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, or CAPER, for project year 2024, which ran from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. The CAPER reviews the progress of the annual action plan and the 5-year con plan. The 2024 annual action plan was the first annual plan of the 5-year con plan. The main objectives of the con plan and annual action plan are to invest 60% towards providing a suitable living environment, 50% towards infrastructure improvements in LMI areas, and 10% towards the removal of access and mobility barriers in all areas, 20% towards improving the capacity of public service providers, 10% towards public facility improvements, and 10% towards public service activities, and 20% towards CDBG admin and planning projects. There were 8 projects completed during the project year, benefiting approximately 24,000 Logan residents, and we'll go through each of those projects. The ADA ramp upgrades project installed 45 ADA ramps in the Adams neighborhood.
That's awesome.
The 300 South, 500 East sidewalk project installed new sidewalk along the north side of 300 South and the west side of 500 East.
It looks nice.
The 100 West, 200 South pedestrian crossing project installed 2 sets of infrared activated pedestrian crossing beacon signs. One is on 100 West in front of the rec center, and one on 100 South in front of Logan High School. And then the 500 West Street Improvements Project installed asphalt and curb and gutter along 500 West to complete the streetscape and fix drainage issues.
So the two crosswalks, wasn't one of them across 100 East? Or was that a year ago?
That
already?
was
The one on
the high school?
The one on 100 East and
It was just the lights.
one's first south?
It was
Right
just
by
the-
from across from the 2 parks?
by Garth Gardens. That was
Yeah.
previous year.
It was
completed.
Jeepers. It was already a year ago? Oh my goodness. Okay.
The Lundstrom Park sidewalk project installed a new 8-foot wide multi-use path around the perimeter of the park, connecting to the existing Lundstrom Park trail that runs along the east side of the park.
I walked it a lot. The little wiggle kind of freaks me out, but.
The little wiggle?
So by the baseball, it's like the path goes.
Oh.
It's to slow
right
people
here.
down. It's interesting.
Oh, I haven't walked it. I need to
You
do
have to
that.
go walk it.
Oh, here's some pictures of the path. The Merlin Olson Wildlife Mural featuring a Bear River cutthroat trout, Old Ephraim, monarch butterflies, fireflies, and the white-faced ibis was installed in the 200 East pedestrian underpass at Merlin Olson Park. The mural also has a custom QR code to bring awareness to local habitats. Sunshine Terrace purchased and installed a new double-deck convection oven to replace their outdated oven that was not functioning properly. The new oven helps to meet the dietary needs of their 62 long-term residents. And the Bragg Emergency Home Repair Program helped 11 low to moderate income households make some necessary repairs to their homes, including roof replacement, water damage repair, rain gutter, siding, and porch repairs. And that's it. Any questions?
No,
That's a great projects.
good to see them done. And hopefully that funding source will continue to be available to us over the next few years. Yep.
Okay, this isn't gonna work so well. What Mark wanted to say was for Hogan's to contact him or other council members so we can help them figure out their dilemma. So Mark, I just wanted that read into the record. Sorry, it's out of order.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yes, thank you, Amanda. Craig, ordinance 25-13, please.
Yes, this enacts section 122450, prohibiting camping on public property. From the outset, I just want to make clear that the primary motivation behind this ordinance was to be eligible for state funding related to homelessness. It required a anti-camping on public property ordinance to be in place and enforced in order to be eligible for that funding. The crux of this is that a person can't camp on public property. It includes streets, rights-of-way, parks, etc. City property, United States property, state property, any political subdivision property, including school district property. Also can't leave camping equipment and personal belongings on public property for more than 15 minutes after being asked to remove it. So if they're asked to refuse, they could be cited for violation of this ordinance.
Does that include campers on public streets?
Campers, well, I think campers would fall into personal belongings.
No, but I mean.
Camping.
You mean like RVs?
Like RVs.
We didn't specifically write that into the ordinance. I think this is more aimed at personal property, tenants and things like that. But we can look at revising.
Mike, do we have something?
Yeah, I think we're covered. I mean, we
Mike?
have rules about how long RVs can be parked on city streets and so on.
Yeah,
Do we have ordinances that prevent people from camping in their RVs on the street?
Come up here.
I thought we did. We can look into that.
Okay. I just didn't know whether it covered that when you said they couldn't be on the street.
Let's double check on that one.
Okay.
Then answer next time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I was actually asked about this. So as people may or may not be aware, a percentage of our tax dollars, if we do not have shelter, goes back to the state. And over time, thanks, I think, in large part to Dr. Mayorton's
See,
your husband.
it's running off on you.
You know, we receive mitigation funds from the state that we help pass on to CAPSA and to BRAG to help address the issue of homelessness related to domestic violence and to help fund the outreach program that BRAG does. So without this ordinance in place, we are at risk of losing that funding, which would then just go back to the state and be dispersed elsewhere. So I think it's really important that we have this on the books because those funds are of great benefit to our entire community.
I agree. Any other questions, Craig, tonight?
I didn't fully read the entire thing prior to tonight. But letter B says, under section 1, for the purpose of this section, the term public grounds means any real property owned in whole or in part by the United States of America and its agencies, the state of Utah, or any political subdivisions, including the city of Logan, on which no camping has been authorized by that entity. We have lots of public lands where people camp that are not within city limits.
Most of them are federal.
Yeah, so just want to clarify that, because it says here the United States of America and its agencies. So are we in, how do we reconcile this?
Well, we couldn't enforce outside of city jurisdiction, outside of city limits. If there's federal property located in Logan City proper, it wouldn't allow camping on that property.
Perfect.
Mike, Mark, any questions?
We actually do. We're thinking that 15 minutes might be too short a time for takedown, so we would recommend we change that to 30, because sometimes, depending on what kind of tent you've got, it takes longer than 15 minutes to take it down. So I'd like to see that go to 30.
That's fair.
That works, Chief.
We give them time.
Yeah.
Thanks. That change will be made for 2 weeks from now. We'll move on now to Resolution 25-35, and Rich will just sort of flow into the carry forwards.
So the first is our typical or monthly adjustments to the budget. The first three items relate to an impact fee study. We're anticipating to redo our impact fee study. So we request to appropriate reserves of $19,620 from the water department for both the water and the wastewater collection impact fee study, $10,170 from the electric fund, and $18,360 from the general fund for the transportation and parks and recreation impact fee study. It's anticipated we appropriate these reserves and then we would collect those as part of the impact fees, assuming council passes a new ordinance sometime in the spring or summer. The next is a request to appropriate $3.2 million COG funds for 10th West, 10th North, and 6th West intersection, and a request to appropriate $301,370 of existing parks and recreation impact fees toward the 8th East Culvert Trail extension, and a request to appropriate $126,624 for an after-school grant that the city received. Substantially less than in previous years, but we're just grateful we got something.
What was it in past years, do you recall?
It was around $300,000.
Yeah.
But it came in spurts. It didn't all come in at once.
This is, I can't remember, but I think this specific grant was 300, and then we had some others.
Some other little ones.
So this is a substantial cut, but we will do the best with what we've got.
Wow. Any questions on those budget adjustments? Any questions from our air audience?
As we all look up at the sky.
Right. I look up at the green light. Mike, Mark, are you still there? Okay, they may have left us. Okay. No further questions?
None for me.
We will move on now to the unspent appropriations carry forward.
As council is painfully aware, our building season is approximately April, March through October, September, November, sometime in that region.
Half in one fiscal year and half in another.
And it cuts it right in half. It's
Hi,
awesome.
this is Mark's cell phone.
Oh, you guys back?
It is the Full Employment Act for accountants. As such, we have all of the uncompleted, typically capital projects, but some of them are operational funds, usually related to a grant match or a very specific item, such as the election expenses of $70,000. We budget $70,000 each year. We carry forward the 70 we don't spend, and we spend around 140, 150 on the election. Community development has a few, and then you can just see them all. There are way too many to list off unless you'd like me to. And then what we have is our grant carry forwards. These are reimbursement grants, just like the ones we covered today, that we have not spent the entirety of. So requesting to carry those forward. And lastly, our RAPS grants, which in some cases are funds we've already received, but we have not spent for the purposes for which we received those funds. And that is carry forwards in a nutshell, but it doesn't fit in a nutshell because it's so much.
Well, I'm glad you're being gainfully employed. Doing your carry forwards.
There is one. After we prepared this ordinance, or this resolution for council, there were two that rolled in. that were not included here. We're asking to verbally include these, so we can bring these back for action item next time. The first is an appropriation for police vehicles that we missed. It was $14,882. Those vehicles are on order, they just haven't come in yet. And then one for electric vehicles for $73,061.
And that's for,
Also vehicles.
but also for the police, or who are the?
Sorry, that one is for electric fund. So for our electric fund.
Oh, they're not electric vehicles, they're just electric fund vehicles. for the
Electric fund, I was like electric vehicles, and I was like, oh, we're getting electric police cars? Okay.
Okay, got it.
And then, as council is aware, we bring these forward as quickly as we can, but we're still wrapping up fiscal year 2025. So it is possible, it's probable, it's unavoidable that we will receive just a few invoices. And so some of these numbers may change between now and the next meeting. I'll try to flag any that change.
Okay.
Typically they go down, occasionally they go up because we missed on what was being carried forward versus what was not.
So what are we still, where are we still spending CARES dollars at that 877?
The only place we have left is the east-west sewer line going fourth north. The project is nearly complete.
Okay.
But there is just a little bit more work. We anticipate that'll be completed shortly. And then we will wrap up our CARES dollars and never go back.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other considerations?
I have no other considerations.
We will,
Oh, wait, I have one. Sorry, I have to look it up. Bridger is doing a cleanup this Saturday at 8 o'clock at Bridger Park in conjunction with Parks and Rec. They're doing a weed abatement project. I believe it's at 8 o'clock. Let me see if I can. I'll send it the actual time to you to correct it tonight. But let me see here. Oops, here it is. 8:30.
8:30?
Yep, for Bridger. So if anyone lives in Bridger and wants to come help clean up, sorry, 8 to 9:30. Wrong again. 8 to 9:30. It's their socials, cleanup, pulling and spraying for weeds, picking up litter. It's at Bridger Park and the Bridger Bike Park. So.
If you're feeling in the mood to pick up litter.
What?
If you're feeling in the mood to pull weeds and pick up litter, come on out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have another consideration?
Yeah, the answer to your question, Jeannie's question, is that RV can be parked for 24 hours.
Okay.
Under 1731-8
Okay, thank you.
for done.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? We will adjourn as the municipal council, and we will reconvene as the redevelopment agency. We have one workshop item. Rich, it's up to you again.
3 items to consider, well, 4 items. The RDA is a separate legal entity, has its own carry forwards. This is a request to appropriate $10,856. It says own in Logan, that was my mistake. It's neighborhood housing program. $150,000 for demolition at 25 West, 300 North. Another $150,000 for demolition at 315 North Main. Anticipating those will happen hopefully this coming fiscal year. And lastly, $115,000 for development agreements that have not been satisfied that we anticipate will be during fiscal year 26.
Excellent. And when you say they have not been satisfied, that means that they agreed to do something that they have not completed yet, so we don't pay them.
So we don't give them money.
That's the 115. That's the 1150.
Anybody have any other
No, it's the
questions?
150,000.
115.
It's 115 and one of the 150s. One of the 150s is technically a development
same
agreement as
thing.
well,
Okay.
but it's for demolition.
Okay.
Okay.
Because the buildings are
Thanks,
joined, but half is owned by the city and half is owned
Okay.
by the developer.
Okay.
But their deadline is December 31 of this year, so
Okay.
we're not, doesn't look like it's going to happen at this point.
Anything else this evening? We are adjourned.
So, Gail Hansen,
Chief, will you let us